Hello everyone, my name is Marcus Nordqvist. I'm the CTO of Queenslab and Happy at Work, and today I'm gonna show you how to very rapidly develop a file uploader action in SvelteKit. For the sake of this exercise, I'm gonna use TypeScript. Okay, so first of all, I'm just gonna use pnpm to start up a solution that we already have in place, thanks to my colleague Nils Kjellman. And this is a very lightweight content management system, pre-alpha kind of thing that we're working on, and the results is at the moment a very simple project where we can edit some titles, and at the time we don't actually store it anywhere. It's just a placeholder where we play around with different components. So I'm gonna go into the playground area where we have a hero component that looks like this, and as you can see, we can't do a lot of stuff with it yet. It's just a header here, and we can change the header. Change the header, and you can see also that it live updates to the HTML component here. You can also change the hero text here. Changed hero text. That's all good and fine, but what I would like to do is that I would like to add an image here in the background, and I would like to be able to drop the image onto the area. I would also like to be able to click on this area somewhere and open up the file uploader dialog so that we may select an image. And I've been thinking a little bit about this and ended up with something that I think might be useful. So yeah, let's dive right into it, and we'll start from the beginning. First of all, let's take a look at the code. I'm not going to go into details about what we have here, but as you can see, it's a SvelteKit solution, primarily using TypeScript. And don't worry so much about what we have in this solution. Let's try to focus on what we'll have instead, and I'll just start writing some code. The first thing I want to do is like, okay, we haven't got any actions here in the library, and I'm gonna fix that from the get-go. So I'm gonna add a folder called actions, and I'm gonna use, let's see, I'm gonna add a file. Let's call it file uploader. File uploader.ts for TypeScript. And okay, let's just start thinking about how this will work. First of all, of course, we need to export the function. And I know that this is a Svelte action, so my first parameter here will be a node, and let's call it node. It can be called element or whatever. I call it node, and it's of the type HTML element. The second thing I will have is something that I will have to invent now. I need some options as well, and I'm gonna call it file uploader options, and this is obviously something that doesn't exist yet. I'm gonna let this function also return an unknown for now, and then maybe we can fix that later, or I'm not gonna go into it, but let's start with an unknown. Okay, first thing first, I want to have this node that I'm adding. I want to have that as a global variable so that I can access it outside of this file uploader function. So I'm gonna just add it, and I'm gonna call it uploader area, because it's the area, the node that we're talking about here is actually the area where we want to upload a file. I'm gonna call it uploader area, and I'm gonna just set it to the node like that. I'm gonna do the same thing with options. Uploader options. Yeah, and of course these options we need to specify them somehow, and for the sake of the exercise I'm just gonna do it in this file, but it should probably be moved somewhere, so I'm gonna specify an interface, and I'm gonna just copy the file uploader options like this. And I need to have a few attributes or properties here from the beginning. I think one of the things I'm gonna add is like an enabled property, and I'm gonna let that be nullable because and have a default value. So I'm gonna set it to a boolean, and if it's not set, I'm gonna set it to true. Also, I'm gonna make it possible to enable or disable the drop, and I'm also gonna set that to a null boolean and with the default value true. And what else? Yeah, we might have to specify what types of files we will allow. So I'm gonna have allowed file types, but that of course will have to be a string value. And I'm thinking the default value here is undefined. I mean, we can change this later, but for now that works. Of course, I mean, let's imagine that you can upload PDFs or any other types of files. Then it wouldn't make sense to make this the element or the node that we're inserting to have the background being set to that file, because it wouldn't be able to use a PDF as a background, obviously. So I'm gonna have an attribute that's called image cover, and I'm gonna make that as well into boolean. And I'm gonna set it to false actually from the beginning. All right. Anything else that I've been missing? Must have a return type. Yeah, I'm gonna do that as well. I saw that there's a problem with this. A function whose declared type is neither void nor any must return a value. And actually, we're gonna return a value. We're gonna, since this will be a Svelte action, we're gonna return this object with the destroy method being called, or destroy function. And let's leave it like that for now, because we don't know exactly what we're gonna destroy. Okay, so we know that we have an element here. We'll set it to uploader area. We have some options, and we need to start working with some event listeners. So I think first thing first is to let's handle some stuff. The mouse over, for instance. What will happen when we hover over this element? Okay, this we can do with the node. I'm gonna do add event listener for mouse over. And I think we could just write the method here or the function here, but I'm gonna do it proper from the beginning and just actually have a method like that or a function being called. Am I missing something? No, I think it's fine. All right, and then we can just do, I don't know if I'll be using this event, but let's set it anyways. Okay, we're handling mouse over. And what will happen in mouse over? Well, one thing that I'm thinking about is like, okay, normally when you hover over an element that is a drop target or that is clickable, it should happen, something should happen. And in this case, we're able to upload something and it's an area. So I'm just gonna add a dashed border to it. And since I'm now in a function that is outside of the scope of the file uploader function, I will need to access the uploader area variable instead of the node. So I'm just gonna set uploader variable. Now I'm writing exactly what I'm thinking, but style.border, and this obviously could be something that you also send in, but for now I'm gonna use this. And what else? Yeah, since you'll be able to click it, I think that we will set cursor as well. Now you might be thinking, why is he not just setting style? Because there might be other styles on this component or on this element, sorry, that is used, and I don't want to override that. I just want to target exactly what I want to change. Yeah, all right. So but now if I run this, it will probably just have when I hover it will be set to a border, and it will be a pointer, and then when I move outside of the element, it will not change. So we also need, of course, to handle the handle mouse out and set it back to whatever it was before. So how do I know what it was before? I have no idea currently, but maybe we'll just invent a variable for that. Call it original border style, and this is easier maybe, or actually we don't know, it might be something else in the future, so let's set a variable for that as well. Original cursor cursor style. Right, and these two don't exist at the moment, so we'll need variables set for those as well. Right, you can see that we're not using the events for now, but let's leave them, and we can remove them later if we don't need them. Okay, so we're not setting the original borders there. We need to get that somehow, and we have to think about this, because we can't just get the style from the node that we're getting. We have to look at the computed style, because it might be set from somewhere else, it might be inherited. So I believe that we should do something like get computed. It's called get computed style, and get it from the node. And we do the same with cursor. There we go. Okay, since we have one event listener added here, I think we might as well just remove it here in the destroy function. Remove event listener. We'll take mouse over and the actual listener. Okay, so this is a pretty basic thing. What we're doing now and how it should work is basically that we will display a different cursor, a pointer cursor, and we should display border, a dashed border, gray. But we're not using this anywhere. But let's save it and test it first. Okay, we need to import file uploader from the lib actions, and I always call file uploader. There we go. And of course this is an action, so we have to use it as an action. Can we do that at the moment? I think we should be able to. Okay, so this is the hero section. So this is the section where, if we take a look at the browser again, so this whole area here is the section where the header is located and the hero text is located. So we should be able to do like this. Use colon and let's call it we're referencing the file uploader, and in file uploader we'll have the options that we send in. The options are packed within a property like this. And we would like to specify allowed file types and stuff like that, because it will have an impact later on, but we can just leave it as a string for now. That empty string, and I'm gonna set image cover to true, because I want to test that out as soon as possible. Alright, and then we'll save it and see what happens. Okay, and I'll refresh this. I think it was hot reloaded, but anyways. Oh yeah, okay. Alright, it's not working as expected, because we still have, if I okay, I'm gonna refresh it again. So it works on hover, but when I do mouse out, it doesn't work. Why is that? Probably because I didn't set the mouse out event, so I need to add that as well. Okay, so mouse out, I need to specify that I'm using the mouse out event listener. Okay, let's test it again. Still doesn't work. Okay, what's the problem here? Okay, let's go back to the code. Okay, obviously I did misspell. There's no mouse out. There's a mouse out. Yeah, and there you see that it works. Still can't click anything though, because I haven't set those event listeners. And I don't think I'll be able to drag anything either. Let's test if I can drag something. Probably it will not display. I don't remember if it does display or not by default. See if I can find a picture, a decent one. No, okay. So you can't see this probably, but what I'm trying to do is to drag an image over this area, but it nothing happens because the mouse over event isn't triggered when I am actually dragging. So yeah, we'll need to write some more code to that for that to work. Back to the drawing board. Yeah, okay, but we have that working anyways, so that's good. What else do we need to figure out? We need to react to the mouse down as well, to the mouse down event, because when the mouse down event is triggered, we would like to open up the file dialog, handle mouse down, so that we may select an image or a PDF or something from our file system. Okay, and when we do, it should be uploaded as a file. First thing I'm thinking about is like, okay, when we are at the node, we have a header and we have some other stuff that we want to access. We only want to really trigger the mouse down event, or we actually just want to handle the mouse down event if we are clicking the parent section, like if going back to the hero. So if we're clicking at this editor here or anything else that is within this section, we shouldn't really do anything. So we only want to react at section level, so so that we don't interfere, because otherwise, if we take a look at the web again, like, okay, we want to be able to click this, but if I react to anything, if I don't stop propagation, then I will never be able to do anything with the title here. So obviously we need to think about that. And how do we do that? Okay, first thing is that we need to compare the targets that we're, and take a look if the target is the same as, what is it? Okay, the uploader area that we're looking at. Is it the same? If it's, or if it isn't, let's do it like, let's reverse it. So if it isn't the same, then we'll do stop propagation like this, and then we'll just return it. And we'll be able to test that, like, okay, let's see if I do a window.console.log, and I'll display exactly what I mean outside. Yeah. So just refresh the page, and now you can see the console log here to the side. And if I click here, you see it's outside, and it's ×3 now. But if I click on the title here, I can say I click on the title and I won't trigger anything else. So I'll still be able to change colors and do formatting here. Yeah. I believe in the future. I believe in the future. I don't believe. Great. Okay, so but what will happen now? What will happen when, if it is outside and if we're at the right place? Well, obviously, this is we don't want a form. We don't want some input or anything. I mean input elements in the HTML, but we want to open the file dialog. So what will be necessary for us to do is to create it, and I'm just gonna call it F for now. And we're gonna create this element, and it's an input element, and we need a file input element in order to open up the file dialog. And we're gonna set it to display, to not display at all, so that it's hidden. We're also gonna set the type to file, so it's the input element type is of type file. I'm also gonna set name to file. I don't think it will be necessary, depends on what you're using as a backend as well. But basically what I'm thinking is that we're gonna use form data to push this to a backend, but I'm not gonna go into that today. Instead we'll take a look at that some other time. But for that reason, I'm gonna also set the name property. What else? We need to set whatever is accepted here, and this is interesting because we already have the allowed file types, and I'm gonna use the options here, allowed, and set it to the allowed file types like this, meaning that in the file upload dialog now, if I set some values like JPG, APG, PNG, PDF, then I'll be able to see those in the file upload dialog. And if I don't set PDF, for instance, I won't be able to see PDF files in the file upload dialog. But it doesn't prevent me from actually uploading. So specifically not when we also will allow to drag and drop. So you should definitely take a look at that at the backend and make sure that you're not able to upload file types that you don't allow in the backend primarily. This is mainly for show and to not display those file types. Yeah, okay, moving on. We need to add an event listener for when this element is clicked, where we don't show it, so there's no user who's going to be able to click it, but we are going to trigger the click event, and we're going to call this function handle upload, like that, and we're going to might as well just add it here directly. Yeah, great. What else? Yeah, we need to append it. We need to append this element that we're creating. Even though we're not going to show it, we need to append it to the DOM somewhere. And I'm gonna put it here in the upload area, so the node that we're working with. And it's called append child. Yeah. What else do we need to do? We need to trigger this handle upload event. I'm writing it as an async method because I think it needs to be. Actually, you can do it like this instantly. It's because we're doing something in the handle upload function that is going to be asynchronous. Maybe. Depends on what you want to put where. Okay, so anyways, we need to await this and upload. And what are we submitting here? We are submitting the files. We will have something called a file list, I think it's called, and those will be submitted to this method. So that's after on change will be triggered after the file dialog closes. So that's when you change the file list. And obviously we need now to trigger it somehow. Okay. In order to just display what we get here, we can do a console log and test this out before we do anything else. Right. Am I missing something? Yeah, okay, so also I may mention that we're using something called Supabase. I don't have the connection string or anything, so that's why I'm getting these errors, but it doesn't matter for the purpose of the exercise that we're doing now. So that's just, you see, it's Supabase URL is required here, and I don't really have that. So that's why I'm getting these error messages. All right. So let's see what happens now when I click. If you see that we can still hover like before. Let's see what happens if I click. Yeah, okay. You can't see this, but now I'm getting a dialog here, and I can select all files because allowed file types that we talked about before were undefined. So maybe let's see if I can just show. Okay, so this is my file dialog here, and you can see that all files are, I can select anything I want here. And in this case I can select an image, like a PNG image. Let's do that. Okay. And if we take a look now here at in the console log, you see that we have a file list being returned here, and it's length 1. So we have a file here. It's that we have a name, last modifier, date, and everything. We see the type, we see the size of the file, and everything. So that's good. Works so far. Great. So if we go back to the code, And let's go into the hero here, the hero component, and let's set some in the options here, allowed file types. Let's set like .png and .jpg, .jpeg, and let's have a PDF as well. Okay, so that's good. Now we have 4 file types allowed. Let's save that. And let's go back and see if we can click this one again. Yeah, and there we go. You have a file dialog, and now you can see the files that are allowed here. Custom files, PNG, JPG, JPEG, and PDF. Still works. Good. Okay, so, but we're not doing anything, we're not uploading anything, and so it basically works to the extent that we can print the event here, and actually I'm going to rename it to files because it's a file list, and we're not doing anything with it yet. So what needs to be done? Well, we could just upload it here. But that would be bad from a component perspective, because we don't know exactly how you would like to do the upload and to where. And now you don't want to have like direct relations to any API within this component, obviously. So instead of doing it like that, I'm gonna just pass it back as an event. And so let's do that. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, this is on this component, I'm gonna on this element, I'm gonna pass it back like this. I'm gonna do dispatch event, and we're gonna call it a new custom event, and in the custom event should be, it's called files uploaded, and I want files uploaded to contain an object where detail, because this is custom event, is something that already exists, so, and there is a detail property on that. On that detail property, I'm just going to set files. So on the files uploaded event, there will be a custom event containing the detail property where the files will be. Alright, fair enough. Let's imagine now that the file that we uploaded is an image, because if we're, regardless, okay, if we go back to the browser and test it again really quickly, you'll see that, okay, if I upload something, blah, 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 and I select an image, nothing really happens. Yeah, now I passed an event to somewhere where it didn't listen, and I removed the window.console.log, but nothing more happens. There's no image showing up. So if it is an image, if I know if it's not a PDF, then it should probably be displayed here instantly. Why not? And there might be cases where you don't want that happening, so you may set that as a property as well. I think we already have a property? Yeah, image cover. So let's go back to the code first of all, and in image cover is set to true. Okay, great. But we also need to set it somehow. And okay, so I think we should dispatch the event first, but then we would like to take a look at this upload area and set it as probably as a background image, because we have titles and text also, so we need to display that on top. So I'm gonna use the background image property to set this. But first of all, we have to take a look at if we have this image cover property, and it's not it's on the uploading options, and we have the image cover if it's set to true, and if files and files dot maybe files dot length, because it's a list, right? If we have files as well, otherwise it doesn't matter. So also what I'm doing now is like I'm taking it for granted that we don't have multiple file uploads. I'm not going to support that. No, I'm just we only want to be able to upload one file for now. Anyways, and then what else? We have the type, and so I know that. And we're just gonna target the first one here. So the type I'm gonna use to see if like, okay, is it an image? And how do you do that? Because it's a start with image dash, not dash, sorry, slash PNG or image slash JPG or something like that. So I know it's gonna start with image if it's an image. So this is like a kind of a defensive programming approach. We could just let it crash, but I think it makes sense to take a quick look at these properties and just realize if it's a good idea or not to try to set an image here. All right, and of course we need to, in this case, the image isn't located anywhere. So if we want to set the background image to something, we need to create a URL. And in the web API, funny enough name for that, in the web API in the browsers currently there is a way to do that using url.createObjectURL. So I'm gonna use that source URL, and it's URL dot create object URL like that, and we need to pass in the file from, or it's the blob actually. Yeah, I think that should do it. And we can set the area, not upload after the area, then to style.background. And yeah, we could set background, but then we would limit the possibility to set other background properties. So I'm just going to set the background image property instead, because you might want to change if it's the background size, the background position and stuff like that independently of what we're doing in this inside the component or the file uploader component. So I'm just gonna set the background image, and it should be, let's make it into a string where we can pass parameters easy, URL, and then we'll have, and we know that we have it should be in the source URL variable like that. Okay, great. I think that should work. Not sure. Let's try it. Okay, I'm gonna save that, and let's go back to the browser. Okay, I'm gonna reload it and see if I click on image here, and yes, there we go. So now we have Steve Ballmer, a lot of Steve Ballmers in the background. Great. And are we still able? Yeah, we can still edit the title. That's good. So we can change the color so it's a little more visible as well. Maybe another color, like red maybe. Whatever. This might not be the best background image to use for this hero, but nevertheless you can see that it works. We haven't uploaded anything yet. There's no backend, but we just uploaded it in the UI and using the blob as a background. Good. And we don't print anything in the console because we removed that, so we're passing an event to the parent component hero, which isn't listening to it. So let's get back to the code. Okay. In the hero now we're using the file uploader, but we're not listening to the event. So let's do that also. On, and the name was, we called it files uploaded. Yeah, okay, files uploaded, and handle files uploaded. Or maybe it's handle uploaded files is a better name actually. Okay, and we're gonna, oh yeah, we already wrote it, so now so in this case we should just print the file list. You can see that we get an error here, and that's because this is because we're using TypeScript and HTML props HTML element, which we're returning, doesn't contain the on files uploaded event. So, but this is it will work anyways, and I've thought about that, and I haven't figured out a solution for it. You should be able to declare it. Okay, so we save that, and let's take a look at the browser again, and let's select an image. Yeah, okay, so now we get the event back to the hero component, and we print it. We don't do anything with it yet, but there we go. All right, back to code. But okay, we are at the situation where we can click the area and we can upload something from an upload dialog, but we still can't drop anything. And I'm just gonna fix that. Let's fix that now. So in order to drop stuff, we need to, first of all, if we drag an object onto the surface or onto this element, it still doesn't react. We want it to react the same way as it does when we hover the element, like bring in out a border that displays like, okay, this is actually a droppable area. And so we can just, first of all, we can do that. And it's like drag, enter. And I think we can just use the same. We're just using the mouse over as well, so that means when we drag an object onto the element without releasing it, it should display the border and everything, and whatever else we would like to later. We might change the background color or whatever. So yeah, let's start with that. And then what else? We also need to drop. Yeah, we need to drop and handle drop. We don't have this function yet. Okay, yeah, we had drag enter. I just realized that we also need to have the drag leave, and that would be the equivalent of handle mouse out there. So if we drag an object and we don't release it, and then we drag it out again, the border should disappear and everything. So the handle drop is pretty much the function that we need to write. Everything else is there. Okay, handle mouse down. Let's put it here. I just realized that I also need to remove all the event listeners, so we can do that. Mouse out, mouse down, drag enter, drag leave, and drop. Great. So what should handle drop contain? Okay, yeah. First of all, I think we need to have a prevent default, because if you drag a PDF onto the browser window, it will open up in a new tab. So we need to prevent the default for that. And what else do we need to do? Okay, so we know that it's a data. I know since before that there's something called data transfer, which is like an object that symbolizes whatever we are dragging onto the surface, the droppable surface. The files are located within this data transfer object, and it's called files. And in this case, it's the same thing. We have the same object. We have a file list object. Isn't that pretty good? It should be then that we could just use the handle upload function. So I think we're gonna try that. I'm gonna put in files there. I also realize now that we're not gonna need to have this asynchronous. I just thought okay, if we need to use fetch or Ajax or anything else, then it would be a nice idea to have it async, but we're not gonna need that. So we can actually remove the handlers, the asynchronous functionality there. Okay, great. So I think this should work. Let's test it. Boom, back in the browser. Okay, so I'm gonna take an image, and I'm gonna take the Balmer image, and I'm gonna drag it. Okay, so we see directly that I get the border. Anyways, the mouse and the drag enter and the drag leave works the way it's supposed to. What happens if I release it? Okay. Why is that? Because it did prevent defaults. But yeah, most probably. Yeah, okay. I think I know what it is. So back to the drawing board. I think if we're using event prevent default, but we're using event prevent default where the target might be propagated to the window. So, but I don't think we even can do that here. I think what we need to do is like yeah, I think this is the thing. So, like globally, we need to take a look at that, and then it's like drag over, and maybe we should have a function for this as well. So let's write one. Const prevent default. Dot prevent. Because we're going to reuse it more than one time. And it's drag over, and it's also when we do the drop. Yeah. Should this work? Maybe. I don't know. It's better just to test stuff. No reason to be scared. Going back into the browser. Alright, okay, we still have that functionality, we still have the file upload dialog. Okay, great. So what happens when I drop something here instead? Success! And you can see that we also have the event firing up, and we have the file coming to the hero component. Okay. We can remove the event here. Let's clean up a little bit before leaving it. So I'm just gonna remove some stuff and clean it up a little bit. Okay, it looks pretty neat anyways. We need obviously to move the interface to somewhere else, and there was this error here that I'm not able to figure out exactly what it is. Okay, so I know that it has something to do with TypeScript, and that this on files uploaded isn't on files uploaded isn't a part of this HTML element section is obviously not a type, not a custom element where on files upload. But then again, I can't understand why use works and why. But maybe you have an idea, guys. You know, I would be happy to understand what this is and what it means. Because I'm thinking like, okay, you can use file uploader. Use and file uploader isn't either part of the HTML element. It has nothing to do with it. The same thing goes for bind. Okay, it's a part of Svelte, but it's always on. So I really don't know what this is. But it works regardless. So and so I just look at it as a warning instead of an error. But it might cause problems, obviously, because something is wrong. So it might cause problems somewhere else. I think there's a way to like globally solve the issue, but I haven't figured out how yet. Okay, anyway, so what are we doing here? Okay, we have we're importing the file uploader now, and we have a function called handle uploaded files where we get the files. We just log them for now. What could be done here instead, obviously, is like we could send them somewhere to an API or something like that, and how that would be done, it could be done with form data, like this. And we'll append the file, and in this case we only have one, so it's event.detail. And we know that it's a list, so we can do it like this. And it even rhymed. And then we could do a fetch Ajax or whatever we would like to do. Like a fetch like this maybe, and my URL to my beloved API. API files, or file, since we're only having one, and then it could be that we have a method post, most probably, or put, and the body would be then the form data. Could then, if we would like to do a console.log, we could log the response. The response here would probably be okay. So now we see that I'm using a wait fetch here, so let's make this into a string. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it does. Does it make it into a file? Forget. No, it doesn't. Okay, great. Let's save both and test what happens in the browser. Okay, I'm gonna use the drag and drop. Boom, dragged it, and you can see instantly we're trying to upload to my URL to my beloved API -file, but there's nothing responding to on that endpoint, obviously, so we get a 500 because I'm using SvelteKit now, so there's a Node app in the background somewhere, but this endpoint does not exist, obviously. So, but we can take a quick look at the request and how it looks. Okay, let's open it up a little bit. So you see that we're transmitting a binary file. The file name is correct. The image, the content type is correct, and so yeah. I'm not gonna go into how to catch the this request on any backend today. We're gonna satisfy to just display how to make this drag and drop component. Sorry, and yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. This will probably be made into an NPM package and be put up on GitHub in a few days. So thank you very much for paying attention for so long. Bye bye.